Well, thank you, everyone. It's such an honor to be here and a privilege to be able to speak again as to the state of the city and our community. Congressman Minnick, I think, was right on in giving us the 30,000-foot view of what the economy is like and the seriousness of the situation for our country and our world. Certainly there are some local implications of that as well, and I'll speak to the scales of economics. With due respect to the congressman, I want to correct him on one matter. He was talking about infrastructure enhancements and some of the businesses that might pop up around intersections. We do not have a 7-Eleven, but he highlighted McDonald's and then said, or maybe something higher class. In Moscow, in fact, our McDonald's are very high class here. I must say, they set records and win awards for their landscaping, for their community mindedness, and so we think they're pretty high class. So thanks for mentioning them, though. I think they'll be pleased to hear it. I want to thank you all for your interest in the state of the city in 2009. I want to reiterate the thanks to Smoky Mountain Pizza and Wheatberry's Bake Shop and the PCEI Plate Project for today's lunch. I want to thank Heart of the Arts and Jenny Sheneman for the use of this beautiful space. This is our newly revitalized community center and continuing to grow and improve, so we're really appreciative of those things. The annual report, as you know, is a retrospective of the year just passed and a prospective of what we might anticipate in 2009. And fitting Moscow's multifaceted identity, I'm going to be talking about a variety of categories today, including growth, the economy, citizen input, the arts, infrastructure, and transportation, and sustainability. And we expect to have time at the end of my prepared remarks for some questions and answers as well. We'll have the prepared remarks available as printed copies over on the counter over here by the silver sliding door, and then we'll also have them posted on the city's homepage. As I was preparing the remarks for today, I was reminded of my first serious adventure, first serious effort at distance running. It was a Coeur d'Alene marathon, and that's promoted as 26.2 beautiful miles. Well, until that day, I furthest I could run 16 miles. And there were some people who questioned whether I could do it, but I knew I could. I was prepared. I had scoped out the course. I was well trained, with the exception of that mileage underfoot. And I had a positive outlook. And I think that's the biggest motivator right there. And that's something that you'll hear me commenting on several times in the course of my remarks today. I familiarized myself with the course, and I joined up with a group of these fun-loving ultra-distance runners. These are the people who run 50 miles at a time just for fun, just for training. And so they kept me kind of distracted. They were pointing out the scenery and cracking jokes and keeping me focused on the positives. And I think that also was really important, especially in such a physically and mentally demanding endeavor as a marathon. So I didn't go out too fast. I ran within myself. I knew my capabilities, and I was focused. But I was distracted. I kept hearing this slap, slap, slap behind me, and then whoosh, this little gangly teenage boy just blows by me. Terrible blow to my ego. And so I plod along, and pretty soon I see him, and I gradually gain on him, and I eventually pass him. And then a little while later, the same thing happened again. Whoosh, this kid goes by, and I'm just wondering what's going on. A little while later, again, I came upon him. This time he's reclining against a fire hydrant. He's absolutely deflated. He's still alive, but he's not going too far. And we didn't see him again that day. It was not at the finisher celebration. And so as I was preparing these remarks, I was thinking about Aesop's fables and the tortoise and the hare story. And I think that adage, slow and steady wins the race, is absolutely applicable to our city of Moscow. Growth in Moscow falls into the category, in part because of our geographic isolation, although the virtual technology connects us to the world. Our population has grown modestly at 1 to 2% per year. In the year 2000, the population was about 21,000, and in 2008, it was estimated at just over 24,000. The risk of rapid change associated with rash decision-making or undue influence by special interests is diminished because Moscow's informed and impassioned public expects to be involved. I think you heard the congressman allude to that back. We have smart people who care a lot about this place. So taking sufficient time up front reduces the time and the cost spent later to resolve problems. One example is our comprehensive plan revision. That thing started in early 2007, started in earnest anyway, and is not expected to be ratified until sometime in mid-2009. That document is going to be the roadmap for development that fits our community's collective vision. So it makes sense that we invested time now to do it well. A unified zoning code will make land use processes more predictable and efficient and fair, and the results more likely to complement Moscow's treasured sense of place. As a compact city, surprisingly diverse for its size, there are lots of opportunities to strengthen our sense of community at events like the Farmers Market, the Jazz Festival, Community Walk, the Renaissance Fair, the Historical Society's Ice Cream Social, Art Walk, and Rendezvous in the Park. Moscowans are renowned for stopping whatever we're doing to provide assistance to strangers. I think some of you may remember the slogan, "City with a Smile," for our centennial celebration. So for the most part, engaging in things that give meaning to our lives has taken precedence over rushing past them. We have taken the slower, careful approach of distance runners. So too has it been with the local economy. A consultant for our Economic Development Strategic Plan observed that Moscow has remained relatively stable without the boom and bust cycles that have upended so many other places around our country. According to the Dale Byers real estate site, although the number of single-family homes sold in Moscow in 2008 was less than in 2007, the average price remained strong at $214,471, compared to $222,000 in 2007 and a little over $212,000 in 2006. The average number of days on the market was 136, with a median of 97 days. Can we improve? Certainly. But Moscow has a sturdy foundation to build upon. In 2008, the city inspected and permitted $27 million in construction, including $10 million in commercial building. Moscow has attracted several new businesses, among them Walgreens, Sherry's, Smoky Mountain Pizza, who's here today, a medical complex, Mix, Panhandle Artisan Bakery, and the new Gambinos. We just hired Travis Carey as the Economic Development Coordinator and Director of the Urban Renewal Agency. Travis is here today too. He is smart, he's energetic, he's optimistic, and his skills are ideally suited to shaping the concepts and standards for the visionary Legacy Crossing Urban Renewal District. Moscow City Council recently approved participation in a land trust program to facilitate development of affordable housing. Many of those council members are here today. I think they're all here, actually. That's great. We acknowledge similar needs for senior housing, and we're serious about establishing a new light industrial zone to diversify our local economy. We're all familiar with the sobering reports of our nation's economy. We heard them from our congressman this afternoon. And it's important that we recognize the distinctions and commonalities at the local level. We're not immune from what happens at the global, national, or state levels, but our economic base affords us some buffering. A report from the Idaho Department of Labor predicts that the big contributors to new jobs through mid-2009 will be healthcare and education. IDL estimated that over 30% of 36,000 jobs generated between mid-2007 and 2009 will be in these sectors. The major employers for Moscow, as we know, are Lake County, or the University of Idaho, Washington State University, and Britain Medical Center. So we have branded this area as Palouse Knowledge Corridor to build on those regional strengths with the two major research institutions, an educated and innovative workforce, and the ideal fit for this emerging economy. Employees in those sectors also support jobs in retail, entertainment, construction, manufacturing, and technology. The University of Idaho employs 1/3 of Lake County's workers, and according to workforce trends, provides economic stability and insulates the county from national economic cycles. Enrollment has been up by just over 1% for each of the last 2 semesters, and undergraduate applications for fall enrollment are 12% over this time last year. Chris is nodding his head, that's so, okay. On the downside, state contributions, as we heard, are, it's contributions to higher education anyway, are expected to be reduced by 10% this year, and WSU is bracing for as much as a 20% cut. So realistically, those reductions will result in reduced spending capacity in our regional economy. Both institutions have expressed a desire to preserve jobs wherever possible. So October marked the 85th consecutive month that Idaho's unemployment rate was below the national average. Figures from Idaho Department of Labor showed unemployment rate in Lehigh County was 4.9% in 2008 and 3.4% on average for the year, compared to a statewide average of 6.6% in December and 4.2% for the year. Nationwide, the unemployment in December was 7.2% and 5.8% for the year. So in comparison, the December figures for nearby Clearwater and Idaho counties were 16.3% and 11.8% respectively, and those counties rely heavily on the timber industry, and that responds to the downturn in construction. Nationwide, home foreclosures in 2008 were 81% above the numbers in 2007, and I think they've been shown to be getting worse at the national level. It affects more than 2.3 million Americans. But in October, Moscow and Pullman each listed 8 foreclosure properties compared to 47 in Lewiston. So even though unemployment rate in Lehigh County is lower than the national figures and lower than most of our neighbors, we're ranked 34th out of the 44 counties. It is important to recognize that the jobless rate in our county represents more than 800 people. We are a caring and supportive community, and people matter. So we're seeing effects at area food banks, both in terms of donations and demand. Backyard Harvest is one of a number of local programs that helps people in need. Last year, the volunteers cleaned over 19,000 pounds of food to distribute to people in need in our community. That nonprofit organization also manages a food stamp program at our local farmers market, and is soon expected to expand to include WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children's program, and also senior nutrition programs. According to the founder of Backyard Harvest, Chaney, she said that the organization is about tying the community together. So to attract funding for area nonprofits and to leverage our local resources, the City of Moscow is going to host another grant proposal writing workshop free of charge to attendees so that we can help people learn to be successful in their grant writing to generate those outside dollars and dollars from some of our local nonprofit organizations like Lehigh County Community Foundation and the Giving Circle. One estimate predicts the demise of over 100,000 nonprofits nationwide this year. So I think it's very important that we continue to do what we can to keep those resources alive and well here, because the nonprofits and the volunteers can do things that government cannot do. State revenue sharing budgeted at $806,000 is expected to decline by $70,000 to $90,000 this year. The portion from sales tax is estimated at $464,000, about $25,000 less than in 2008. Highway tax distribution, that has been relatively stable at $851,000 since 2005, is expected to be off by about $45,000 this year, and that will be reflected in our city's streets budget. The liquor share apportionment is expected to remain relatively flat, and we anticipated that in the municipal budget. To be sure, we are facing serious problems and serious challenges, but there are plenty of people and businesses hurting around our country. Some of them are here on the Palouse. Many of us have seen our college savings and retirement funds decline. We are facing the sobering reality, but much of what we do with that information is emotional. Bad news is contagious. And as a remedy, one owner of a thriving local business advised his employees to just quit watching CNN. So when the Fed officially declared that we are in a recession, a collective gasp went up from Wall Street and the Dow plummeted 680 points. Never mind that that reality was already a year old. So several days later, after plans for a stimulus package were announced, stocks soared, and they've been on this roller coaster ever since. My point being, a lot of what we do with this is emotional. Now is not the time to spend frivolously, but neither should we panic or hold up inert expecting the worst. It is a time to anticipate changing market demands, to invest strategically, and prepare for the new economy that will emerge during and after this recession. Sean Higgins, who's Director of Sales and Marketing at the Spokesman Review and a longtime economic prognosticator, recently addressed those issues in his remarks to the Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. He observed that the recession came late to the inland Northwest. He predicted that it will be shorter and less severe than elsewhere in the country. And borrowing from Winston Churchill, who is said to have invested in the U.S. stock market during the Great Depression, he said, "Those who come through this pinch will reap the future." So in keeping with the slow and steady approach, Moscow's chamber director predicts the local economy will trudge along until we start seeing a national recovery. Our economy includes numerous examples of businesses that are nimble, responsive, that fill gaps or provide noteworthy customer service, create a welcoming atmosphere, combine uses, and support local causes. One of those is Tri-State Distributors that has enjoyed record-setting sales again in 2008. Their sales in December were 20% above any month before. How did they do it? Well, anyone who knows Gerard Connolly knows that positive attitude plays a huge role. But in addition, his business knows its market, provides knowledgeable and attentive customer service, and is an active community partner. Last year, Tri-State contributed in excess of $100,000 to area causes. Gerard, who is a perennial marathoner, told me that unlike our racing times, financial numbers can actually improve, and it requires, quote, vision, optimism, and capital investment for a business to remain youthful and vigorous. On the subject of capital investment, the acclaimed columnist and author Thomas Friedman explained the size of the federal stimulus package relative to the pressing needs in our country with a line from the movie Jaws. He quoted Roy Scheider's character, Police Chief Martin Brody, who upon seeing the giant shark for the first time, understatedly quipped to Captain Quint, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." So as it turned out, the $787 billion boat is bigger than most of us can visualize. The congressman will attest to that. Federal stimulus dollars are expected to be distributed among states and local governments. We don't know exactly what that might look like here. But Moscow has joined other cities in putting together our wish list, and we'll see what kinds of projects and programs we think can help the local economy to create jobs, those lasting jobs that the congressman addressed, improving infrastructure and developing programs and projects that will position us favorably in a new economic climate. Cautious optimism is the rule, and we are not counting on what remains an uncertain outcome for how the funds might be dispersed. Moscow is not immune from the ripple effects of the national and global economic circumstances, but as I said earlier, the nature and scale of our local economy affords us an insulation. The practice, indeed the requirement of municipal finances in Idaho is to balance revenues with expenses, to invest soundly and conservatively for the long term, to provide reasoned recommendations to policymakers so that necessities and obligations are prioritized. The City of Moscow will continue to budget with that in mind. The city's mission statement promises, quote, quality municipal services while ensuring responsible use of resources. With the support of skilled city staff, the citizens' participation, and this nurturing environment here, we have a long list of accomplishments to report. First, we benefit from the dedication of time and talent from citizen volunteers on commissions that inform and advise policymakers. Our biannual citizen survey solicits longitudinal feedback on recurring topics and input on items of interest associated with the City Council objectives, with the volunteer commission's recommendations, and municipal department projects and programs. In 2008, 94% of the citizens of Moscow rated the quality of life here as good or excellent. That far exceeds the national average. The city's arts department and Moscow Arts Commission work collaboratively to enhance Moscow's reputation as heart of the arts. David Geese is the new director of Moscow Arts Commission. He's an artist and professor at the University of Idaho. We've also recently added some new positions for a high school student and for university students. So Moscow's business community has been tremendous in supporting the arts. They support Art Block, the regional studio tour, the chalk art contest, and we have businesses like Paradise Creek Bicycles and its Above the Rim Gallery that regularly have openings here. We have performing arts in abundance. We're looking forward to the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival next week. We have Rendezvous in the Park coming up this summer. Any number of plays and concerts all year long. North Central Idaho Tourism Association and 2 Degrees Northwest are among the economic development interests that have noticed the significant role of cultural tourism in Moscow and on the Palouse. So watch for more exciting things to happen as relates to arts and economic development here. Regarding infrastructure and transportation, a federal grant involving Moscow Valley Transit, the University of Idaho, and the city provided bus shelters embellished with student art. Our biggest capital project, of course, is Phase 4 of the wastewater treatment plant, funded with nearly $6 million in AAA rated bonds. The improvements will reduce the phosphorus levels to comply with EPA mandates. In the realm of transportation, we also built some new sidewalks, funded some safe routes to school grants in cooperation with the school district and the university. Our community is challenged to keep up with demands. Some of you will remember the snow incidents of December. And with filling potholes, paving streets, and moving toward the concept of complete streets, in which we provide for bicyclists, pedestrians, wheelchair users, as well as motorists. Watch for the D Street pathway improvements between Mountain View and McDonald Elementary to begin this spring. A recent parking study, yet another one, appears this time to have gained momentum and involvement of the URA and cooperation from the University of Idaho and Britain Medical Center. We're optimistic that we'll make some progress very soon, especially as regards the downtown parking plan. The city continues to work closely with Idaho Transportation Department and the university regarding the safety at Peterson Drive crosswalk, and you'll undoubtedly have seen those improvements already with the brighter lights and the broader stripes and the educational piece that goes along with that. The latest report on the roadway extension into the core of campus and the corresponding installation of a 4-way signal at that site is expected to begin as early as June. The concept of a ring road or bypass long on the back burner will linger there a while longer, restoring and expanding the core of Moscow as a more bicycle pedestrian friendly place by routing through traffic around to the periphery lies largely in the hands of Latah County and Idaho Transportation Department. Certainly sections of a ring road or an arc that would effectively be a bypass may result from planned development within the city, but most of the conceived route is outside the area of city impact. The city is involved with regional efforts coordinated by ITD to develop a statewide transportation plan called IMAP for public transit and all modes of mobility. Ideally, the outcome will be expanded hours and areas of operation for our bus service, which incidentally continues to set records in ridership. Overarching all of the categories that I've addressed so far is sustainability and Moscow's preparedness to thrive socially, economically, and ecologically now and into the future. We have a head start on this, as the Congressman said, well in advance of many other places around the country. Mark Weiss, who is chairman and CEO of Global Urban Development, recently told the National League of Cities Advisory Council that, quote, in the 21st century, you can only get richer by becoming greener. A 2006 Patel report commissioned by Idaho Department of Commerce, at that time Commerce and Labor, drew similar conclusions. It identified the state's core competencies and projected that a Center for Ecological Health would be the ideal fit for this region's economy. And a steering committee representing Latah Economic Development Council, the University of Idaho, local government, and a number of locally owned businesses is investigating the prospect of establishing such a center here. We're pursuing federal startup funds for planning and what is expected to be a self-supporting entity to promote economic development and find solutions for environmental challenges. In today's reality, it would be imprudent to segregate sustainability from economic development. Dusting off my crystal ball and adding a few of my personal hopes for 2009, I predict and aspire toward the following. 1, I'm optimistic about urban renewal and legacy crossing. We are becoming more aware of consumers' preferences for compact, accessible, human-scaled, energy-efficient facilities near work, recreation, shopping, entertainment, dining, public transit, and medical care, and I might add the university. And across the country, consumers are demonstrating their expectations and their willingness to pay for these features. One concept for legacy crossing involves adaptive reuse of large grain elevators, potentially to include a surround view research facility called an Allosphere. The only one existing now is in Santa Barbara, California. Proximity to downtown and the University of Idaho make this site ideally suited to uses envisioned by the developers, and Idaho Smart Growth recently presented them with the 2008 Mixed Use Award. 2, I anticipate that governmental entities in the Palouse Basin will join Idaho Department of Water Resources, Washington Department of Ecology, scientific and legal experts, the EPA, and other agencies in taking the first steps to design a model for watershed management. This will include setting common standards, planning and funding for an alternative water supply, addressing the risks of emerging contaminants, and making clear that we cannot sustain economic growth without sufficient quantities of clean water. 3, as directed by the EPA, I predict the City Council will continue to seek solutions for managing stormwater, potentially to include a stormwater utility. Item 4, I predict that we will identify an industrial park site to facilitate the design, manufacture, and distribution of products to create new jobs and diversify our local economy. 5, the comprehensive plan will be finalized, at least until the next time, and will take the next step to develop a unified zoning code to implement the vision set forward by the citizens of Moscow. 6, affordable workforce and senior housing programs will grow out of necessity and market demand. 7, we mustn't allow the long-sought ball field on Palouse River Drive to drop from our priorities. 8, the city will continue to look for ways to be more efficient and to stretch our budget. Our new voice over internet protocol, the VoIP, was just installed last week. We estimate that it will save us $1,000 a month in telephone expenses. We'll replace depreciated and outmoded vehicles in the city and the municipal fleet with more efficient ones, including electrics and hybrids, which we anticipate will be more numerous in the market in the near future. In conclusion, Moscow enjoys a unique and enviable reputation. We are rich in so many ways. It is our collective privilege and obligation to assume the challenge of diversifying and growing the economy without sacrificing the quality of life here. On the heels of President Obama's inaugural address, it is important and prudent that we take his inspirational messages to heart and to act on them. He reminded us that, quote, we remain the most prosperous, powerful nation on earth. Our workers are no less productive than when this crisis began. Our minds are no less inventive, our goods and services no less needed than they were last week or last month or last year. Our capacity remains undiminished. He said, our challenges may be new. The instruments with which we meet them may be new, but those values upon which our success depends, hard work and honesty, courage and fair play, tolerance and curiosity, loyalty and patriotism, these things are old. These things are true. They have been the quiet force of progress throughout our history. What is demanded then is a return to these truths. The President called upon each of us to help each other and our nation to prosper and to restore confidence. This is true at all levels of government and within all aspects of our community. The old quiet truths to which the President referred are alive and well in this room today. Witness the product of hard work and the courage of commitment reflected in our revitalized 1912 Center. Recognize the generosity and community-mindedness of our predecessors and those who continue to inspire our community today. The President talked about fair play, tolerance, and patriotism, all important parts of Moscow's representative and participatory governance. Happily, he also mentioned curiosity, a trait that inspires us to excel and to stay connected. Curiosity may have drawn you to today's address, but the reality is that most of you already knew the state of our city. We know that neighbors help neighbors, that our community is safe, that the arts and recreation keep us healthy in body and spirit, that we have many fewer boarded up storefronts than we see on the national news. To a large extent, the state of our city is what we make of it, what we believe, and what actions we take. We are not immune from the hardships of the local economic recession, but it is important to remind ourselves that we can influence how we manage local challenges locally. Buy local is one such example. As we have been doing so successfully, let's take the slow and steady approach for the long run to listen to the languages of economics and ecology, to balance sustainability with profitability, to preserve those qualities that make life in Moscow so exceptional, and to be inspired to guide it toward becoming even better. Thank you again for your interest in the state of our city, and Director Hacker, time permitting, I will take some